I'm Captain Xavier, and today we're going to be experimenting with balls.
Balls. Balls. Balls. Balls. Balls.
Get your mind out of the gutter, you filthy reprobates! Anyway, today we're going to be firing a variety of spherical ammunition types from a variety of blasters. So let's zoom in here and take a look at what we're going to be up to. Right, the primary focus of this video is obviously going to be on these three ammo types. These two were thrown in for the lulz. These ones are required specifically for this video. They are brand new, still in package, ain't never been sniffed, and we are going to be putting them through their paces today. What we have are Valken Paintball Gotcha reusable soft foam balls, Hyper, and Little Valentine Rival rounds. And I'm going to be firing them from a variety of shells and barrels off various blasters, and the goal being to determine if one of these ammo types is particularly good at multi-shot, at shotgunning, at buckshot. I want to fire multiple rounds of ammo on a single trigger pull. I want a decent spread, I want decent range, all of that. So that's what we're going to be primarily focusing on. Once we've gone to the range and just flung foam about and really kind of got an idea of what we can do with these various ammo types, I'll come back and I'll give you the numbers. I'll give you price per round, I will give you the weight, I'll give you the size, and then I'll discuss what I think the results kind of point towards. Now, I'm not going to try to prove anything. I'm not going to say these are absolutely the best and these are rubbish or whatever. I'm going to give my observations, give you what I believe were the results based on what we see, and then kind of discuss what I think, which ones are going to be good for certain things, what things could be done, how things could improve, and we'll go from there. So let's go to the range and fling some foam. Right, we are here on the range, and I have my Nintendo Super Scope XBZ, and I have, of course, the silly barrel. This is the reactor barrel on there, and we're gonna see how well it actually fires. About as well as I expected. Let's try the other silly one. Now for the Hog Wild barrel. That fires much better. I'll try that again. This time actually aiming. No! Drifted. There's a bit of a cross breeze, and those things are not very heavy. Next. Now we shall be firing Rival out of this long metal barrel that was sent to me by somebody at some point, firing a single round. I just want to see what happens, then we'll try it with two, then we'll try it with more, and so on and so forth. Single shot. I not only hit the target, I knocked down one of the bottles. That's pretty cool. Now for 2 rounds. Right, we've got 2 rounds loaded in there. We'll see if it actually fires or if it just jams. It fired. It fired really well. I think they both hit. More ammo. Now with 3. Oh, at 3 we're losing our gusto. I'll try it with 2 again to see if it wasn't a fluke. 2 rounds. Okay. 2 rounds works. 3, too much. Let's try something else. Right, we have the Little Rocket triple barrel for Hyper that has been quite jankily taped to a PVC adapter so that I could screw it onto the end of this. Let's see how well it does. Not too bad. And the net saved it. Let's see if we can double load each barrel. Right, it was definitely not designed for this. The ends of the barrels are not actually tight enough to hold an extra round in, but if you keep it kind of aimed up, it might work. The Little Rocket system would definitely not be able to fire this, but an XBZ, it might. That worked way better than it should. I think that worked better than firing 3. Hyper is dubious. Very dubious. Right, let's try the last ammo type. Right, single shot using the gotcha rounds, the Valken rounds. Jeebus! That'll do! How many can we shove down the barrel? We'll start with 2. Train! 2 rounds. That's terrifying. 3. They are not slowing down. 4. Now our spread's getting a little erratic. Let's go straight to 6. They are all over the place. But it still isn't slowing down. Let's try 8. 8 rounds. Now it's starting to slow down, but we're still hitting 50 feet with a decent spread, firing 8 rounds. That's neat. Let's try some more options. Right, now we have a triple rival barrel. Each one of them has a single round in it, so 3 barrels, 3 rounds. Let's see how it works with 3 like this. I am not impressed. Don't actually know how well this seals. We will try it again. Round 2. Nope. Can't do 3. Either that or this thing has some major air leaks in it. Nope, no air leaks, so it's not that. So we noted that the gotcha rounds worked great in line, firing even as many as 8. Here we've got 5 in a Hammershot cylinder, and we'll see if it has the same problem that the rival did, firing multiple barrels. I mean, it's a lot more dead space that it's then trying to fill. So let's see. Nope. I hit 2 different targets. That worked great. All right. Obviously, 2 rounds per barrel now. All right. The issue we're, of course, running into is that these are standard Nerf barrels, and they're only actually tight for the first ½ inch, which is how big these rounds are. And so the second rounds are loose, and if you actually tip it down, they'll fall out. If you had a 3D printed Hammershot cylinder on one of these, it probably wouldn't have that problem. So, well, let's see what happens. That was probably the most beautiful round I've seen so far. It was a scatter, but right down the center. Beautiful. All right. Let's try something else. So, I have the Crooked Cousin here with the inline clip barrel. Now we know that it would probably fire those small rounds from a sealed barrel, like the regular Elite dart barrel, or even that half dart rotating barrel. But I'm curious to see how it works with the inline clip. Will it fire at all? I've only got 1 loaded in it, and then we'll try it with multiples and see what happens. So here we go. It does fire. Not particularly well, but it fires. Let's put 2 in and see what happens. It fired them both. Fascinating. 3. Fired 1. Fired 1. There should have been 1 more round. Did it vacuum load it? What happened? Did it fall out? What's going on? Did it fire 2 and I didn't notice? Now with 3. It fired 4 rounds. I loaded 3, and it fired 4. We'll try it again with 3. It fired all 3. Okay, so, doesn't like the inline clip, unless, I mean, it didn't fire them well, so I wouldn't recommend that. I wish I had brought the regular Elite barrel now. Regular Elite barrel acquired single round. Yeah, that's ridiculous. I don't even know how far that went, but it went way farther than it had any business going. 2 rounds. Still hitting at least 60 feet with 2 rounds. 3 rounds. These things are absurd. 4 rounds. I object. 6 rounds, which is as much as this barrel can hold. And it's still firing a good 30 feet with a fairly tight grouping. Huh. We got another one. Triple Elite barrel with 1 ball each. And this is with this tiny little thing. 3 per barrel. It's 9 of those little balls from the Crooked Cousin. At that point, we're starting to run. Oh, we had one kind of jam. We'll try it with 2. 2 per barrel. Yep, 2 per barrel. Lovely. All right. Now to try to get to one that might be really actually practical. My modified sledge fire. And I've got it in there with a shell that I've removed the post from, and I've got 2 per barrel. And again, we're running into the problem of the second one isn't really sticking as well as it could. We will see. I might have a possible fix for that. But let's try it with 6. That's ridiculous. Let's try it with 3. 3, 1 in each cylinder. Oh, it's so beautiful. Ah, yes. Now I have a brassed one, which I think has 3 per barrel. I'm dubious whether I'll be able to fire it, but I do have another option, so. All right, it would hit a man-sized target at 25 feet, and there would be no missing. But I'd like a little bit more range out of it, so we're going to try it out of another blaster. Right, we have my sledge fire attachment on my drain blaster in a Firefly, and we've got the brassed cylinder, or the brassed shell in there with 3 rounds per chamber. So let's see what this does. I am not impressed. Has my seal worn out? I think... What happened? There used to be a seal. Apparently, I need to replace the foam seal. It may have been eaten by rats. All right. We'll move on to the one that I know you're all really waiting for, and that's, of course, why I did it last. The Spring Thunder. Because it takes those lovely, lovely shells. I've got it currently loaded with Rival. First one has 1, then 2, then 3. We'll see how well those work. Lovely. Less lovely. Even less lovely. So 3, it's getting a little much for it. Let's try it with a hyper. I was able to create a hyper shell by seeding some brass in an ultra shell. It doesn't fit very well, and I don't think it's going to work very well, but I'm going to try it anyway. Yeah. Not so much. So hopefully somebody will develop an actual hyper shell for these, and then I'll be able to test that. But let's take a look at those Valken rounds. So again, loaded with 1, then 2, then 3. We'll see what it does. That was unimpressive. Oh, come on, there we go. That was also unimpressive. 3 worked the best. Weird. We got more kinds of shells. All right, we have the bird shot, which are supposed to take 2 elite, I believe. And I've got 2, 4, 6. Here we go. Blah. Blah. Not so much, it turns out. A lot of scatter and kind of close range, so Spring Thunder might not be the best option for those particular rounds. I brought more ballistic balls, so I'm gonna fire them. Still not impressive. Aha! I'm gonna clean up this mess, and we're gonna talk about it. It's easy enough to spot them in my range, but what would it be like in relatively decent-sized grass? Yeah, that's 10 rounds. Oh, that could be a problem. Right, I promised you numbers, so let's talk numbers. Then I'll give you my opinion. So the Valken rounds were $60 for 500, so that's 12 cents a round. The Hyper rounds are, I believe, $30 for 200, or 15 cents a round. And these Rival rounds were $13 for 100, so 13 cents a round. So they're all about within a couple of cents of each other. So not a big difference cost-wise. Let's talk about size, because that's where the biggest advantage, I believe, came from. We'll start with the reactor ball. For no good reason whatsoever, they come in at 44.28 millimeters, or 1.74 inches, and they weigh 4.37 grams. Hog Wild rounds come in at 29.34 millimeters, or 1.15 inches, and weigh 1.27 grams. Now for the useful ones. These rival rounds are coming in at right around, get 22.19 millimeters, or 0.875 inches, and weigh 1.76 grams. Hyper gets us all the way down to 14.61 millimeters, or 0.575 inches, weighing in at 1.38 grams. And finally, the Valken rounds are coming in at 12.68 millimeters, or 0.499 inches, call it 0.5 inches, and a mere 0.48 grams. So they are small and they are light. So what does this mean in practical terms? Well, these ones are obviously large and light for their size and not all that useful, so we're just gonna get rid of them. But let's talk about these ones. Rival's been around for quite a while now, and we pretty much know the pros and cons of it. It works great indoors, where there isn't a lot of wind or anything to disrupt its flight pattern. Doesn't work so great at long range outdoors, but at close range at high velocities, it can really book and can be very hard to dodge and can be very, very accurate. Hyper has pretty much all of those same characteristics, but is less prone to being affected by the wind on account of being smaller and denser. They're considerably smaller, but not that much lighter. Let's review those weights real quick. 1.77 compared to 1.39. So 0.4, give or take, less than half a gram difference. But it still has the dimpling, and it still, if you provide hop-up, will have most of the same advantages that Rival has, but it's a little bit smaller and denser, which means it's going to reserve its inertia better. Less wind resistance while still having a decent mass means it will travel farther before it starts to slow down from wind resistance. And I have gone up against modded Hyper blasters, and they're hard to dodge and hard to see coming. Train? So there is definitely potential there for certain aspects. We don't really yet know how well they would work in, say, an agitated hopper for a flywheel proton pack type situation. Being rubber, they might, people were saying they would stick together. I don't know how true that would be. Obviously, they already have hopper blasters for them, and they seem to work, so that's kind of questionable. These ones, obviously, in the video, you could tell I was very impressed with their performance. They are very, very light and very small, but they still manage to fly very well from even weak-powered blasters, and fired even better from the higher-powered blasters. The biggest thing that they have going for them is that they're 50 caliber. They are the same diameter as a Nerf dart, which means, as you saw, you can simply put them in barrels and shells and cylinders that are designed to take regular elite darts, and they will work. And you can multi-load them, and they will still work. You can easily just shove 4 of them down the barrel and fire it, and it will simply work. And that gives them a potential that is far greater than either of the others, because we already have all of the blasters necessary to operate these. I had very few options for firing these because these are not the same size as any of the stuff that I already had built. None of my pre-existing barrels, none of my pre-existing cylinders. If I wanted to be able to really experiment with these, I would need to build all new barrels, all new cylinders. And while that was true when Rival came out, I've already built all the ones for Rival. And unarguably, that's not a fair, thing against it. And I don't consider that something against these, but I consider that a boon for these, that I don't have to build new stuff to be able to use these. And that very much gives them just a huge amount of potential, because I can simply take the posts out of a Sledgefire shell and shove these in a Sledgefire shell, and now my Sledgefire shell fires twice as many rounds. I can simply barrel load them into something and have multiple rounds. And if you, and there is additional potential that you will find out about potentially later. Yeah. Now, for downsides. We already discussed some of the downsides of these. There's talk of them, jamming easily because they're rubber and they will kind of stick to other rubber things and get caught in agitators or get caught in hoppers or whatnot. Rival kind of has that, but not nearly as much. Rarely have I seen them really get jammed in something. But these, the downside was also their benefit, and it's their size. As you noted, when I threw 10 of these into the grass, you could see maybe 3 of them. I was able to find them all, but it took some digging. On my range, it wasn't a problem. It's easy to see anything that's on my range because the ground has been scraped, there's nets to hold everything in place. And if you were playing on something like that, or in an indoor arena or something, it wouldn't be that big of a problem. But in an open field, you're gonna get none of these back. And that is both a problem in that you're not going to get your ammo back, but even a bigger problem in that you're going to be leaving a mess in the field. Those rounds will be found by animals, those rounds will be found by the lawnmower, and that is not good for public play. Because one of the various reasons that Nerf is allowed in public places is that we clean up after ourselves. We pick up all of our ammo. Unlike airsoft or paintball, it's really easy for us to do a sweep and pick up all of our ammo. It would be difficult, and you would have to do a really close sweep and get out there on your hands and knees and with a rake or something to find all of these in a grass field. So I definitely would not recommend these for public play in an open field where there's grass, because you're going to make a huge mess. But something like my arena or someone else's indoor arena or private property where they're not as worried about it, Lord, do these things have an amazing potential. I was clued into them by Walcom. He's the first person I know who used them. I don't know where he got the idea. He probably mentions it in his video. But yeah, all of there's another shell-fed pump blaster that he was using them in, and it worked absolutely beautifully. And obviously they worked fairly well in the Spring Thunder, and they definitely worked in the the Sledgefire. So yeah, huge amount of potential for what you could do with these as far as muzzle loading or shotgun. But my biggest concern is the mess that they're going to make because they're so small. And it's bad enough with Hyper that they're so much smaller than Rival that they're going to get lost easier. But these are absolutely neon green and just jump out at you. These are at least yellow, so they're not that bad. If they were green, it would just be a complete wash. But that is my big concern with them. But I think there is definitely a lot of potential for using these in any number of applications and blasters. And I'm really kind of tempted. I want to try them in like the Radioactive's Hammershot cylinders or other 3D printed cylinders that don't have a post, because I think they would work very, very well. In fact, you know what? Look, Hammershots. Orange Bondworks Hammershot. Where's my ramrod? I lost my ramrod. All right, so I've loaded it up. 3, 3, 2, 2, 1, 1. I meant to go the other way, but this thing rotates in the wrong direction, or rather, I loaded it in the wrong direction. I want to see how far this fires. This is an Orange Mod Works cylinder. It will hold 3 easily. After that, the barrel is too loose, but I'm curious, how well does it fire 3 of these at once? 78, 72, 88, 77, single shot, 83, 92. Okay, yeah, that works great. I don't know about the spread because I'm just shooting it here in the shop, but yeah, that's really, really cool. The download to using it in something like a Hammershot is that it's very cumbersome to reload because you need a ramrod to push the ball down in. But if you're using something that's shell-fed, then you can preload everything. Or if you had something that was rear load, you could easily rear load a couple of them. So yeah, the potential is definitely there. I'm definitely looking forward to, at the next war that I host here, running a loadout that's got some of those involved just to plink and have fun. I may have to figure out what would be the best loadout to try that in. I may have to try to get a hold of one of those shell-fed shotguns. I don't know if they're still available, but I will definitely try to hunt one down and give that a go. But okay, there's my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think of these increasingly small round ammos. Thank you guys for watching. Here's a little bonus footage to see who watches all the way to the end. Oh yeah, yeah, it'll work. Magazines change the whole thing, because if you could design a magazine that held either 2 or 3 in a row in stacks, then you could turn your Caliburn, your Talon Claw, your anything that takes Talon magazines or whatever style magazines into shotguns instantly. And it would be as functional as using anything magazine fed. And that changes everything. But again, that requires us to develop new technology. And the real focus of this was, what could these be used that didn't require whole new magazines to be developed or whatnot? And that's where these really shine, because they will fit in existing stuff. So somebody develop me a Talon compatible magazine that holds 50 caliber balls. Do it. Go. Shoot. Shoot. Thank you for watching.